Hey everybody, Brian Zane here with another classic pay-per-view review as nominated by my Patreon backers. The last time I looked at the 1992 Royal Rumble, which many people consider to be one of the best, if not the best, Rumble pay-per-views and Rumble matches of all time. But I wanted to look at a more modern equivalent, another Rumble pay-per-view which is also looked at fairly fondly, especially the Rumble match itself, a more modern version, something closer to our current timeline. With that, it's time for the Royal Rumble 2004 from January 25th at the Wachovia Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. This show was nominated by Ben Tallman, Liam Roberge, Thomas Fireheart, and Marcus Mason over on patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret. It is the 17th Rumble pay-per-view in history. It's also known as the Forgotten Rumble because of who won the main event, but you know we're going to get into all that later in this review. Nearly 17,300 people in attendance, 325,000 pay-per-view buys, and that's a .59 buy rate. Jim Ross and The King are on commentary for Raw. You can see Jonathan Coachman's with them for now. Michael Cole and Taz for SmackDown, and Taz makes a weird bird noise.
I cannot wait for the SmackDown end of things.
Your opening matchup's a tables match with the World Tag Titles as Evolution. That's Batista and Ric Flair in happier times, taking on the Dudley Boyz. Batista's on the microphone on the ramp and says that the Dudleys are the biggest losers since the Philadelphia Eagles, and them's fighting words for the boys from ECW. Early in the match, Bubba slides a table from one side of the ring to the other onto Batista, which I thought was pretty clever use of the table. Coach is very anti-Dudleys on commentary here. Of course, he is the stooge for Raw GM Eric Bischoff, and just last week on Raw, he was put through a table via 3D by the Dudley Boyz, so he's kind of got it out for the Dudleys here. There are a couple close calls with the tables, one of which sees the table fall back onto everyone after a suplex. As the Dudleys set Flair up for a 3D, Coach leaves the announce table and comes to the ring. Bubba brings him in the hard way. He exposes the injured ribs and slams him down on his back. They go for the what's up, but Flair takes out Bubba. Devon takes out Flair. Then Batista with a spine buster on Devon through the table, and the match is over. Pretty short match here. Coach announces Evolution as the winners while he's still selling, and it's pretty hilarious.
And the winner of this match is still the World Tag Team Champion.
Then afterward, Coach gets a word in with Flair. Flair screams about how it's Evolution forever. It's no tear in my eye promo, but it'll do. I give it 1.5 stars out of 5. Like I said, it's a pretty short matchup here, kind of clunky at times. You could tell they're trying to cram as much story into this match as humanly possible, which could be a recurring theme on the night because a lot of the undercard matches, most if not all, are criminally short, even for a Rumble pay-per-view, and we'll get into why later. Backstage, Josh Matthews interviewing John Cena. At this time, it's pretty hard to outdo Cena when it comes to dressing loudly, but Josh knocks it out of the park here. What is that look? Cena raps about the Rumble match, gets a local pop for mentioning Tug McGraw, the recently departed Philly baseball legend. Rob Van Dam pops in and cuts off Cena's rap, and then after he leaves, Cena keeps flowing. He says RVD's talking to Mary Jane, and then tells him to suck his candy cane. It's a really good promo here by Cena. Cruiserweight title match up next as Rey Mysterio defends against Jamie Noble, and oh my god, I forgot all about the blind Nydia gimmick. Okay, let's back up a little bit. Let me tell you what happened a few weeks before this on SmackDown when in a match with Tajiri and Jamie Noble, Tajiri sprays Nydia with the black mist, which as we all know is far more toxic and harmful than the green mist. So, Nydia is stricken blind, and we see her here with the sunglasses and cane, and it's a hilarious look. And I'm not saying that out of spite for blind people. That's not what I'm saying at all here. What I'm saying is this gimmick in particular to me is funny because the juxtaposition of Nydia's pre-existing character, because she and Noble are doing like the trailer park couple gimmick, and then later on they come into money, and so that's why Nydia's wearing the big fur coat over her outfit. So you get the fur coat, the Daisy Dukes, the tank top, and then the cane and the sunglasses. The whole thing is just this weird hodgepodge. There are surprisingly a lot of layers going on with Nydia around this time, and while she's been blind, Noble's been taking advantage of this, kind of putting her in harm's way in matches leading up to tonight. Contrast of styles in this matchup here. Noble is the mat-based wrestler, Mysterio the high flyer. Mysterio going for a springboard crossbody takes a knee to the gut. Noble gets tripped up by Nydia as she staggers along the apron, which is just hilarious. 619, dropping the dime, and Rey Mysterio wins and retains. I give it 2 stars out of 5. It is another ridiculously short match, but I do give it extra points because of just how entertained I was by Nydia at ringside, and Noble looking like a proper prick for yelling at Nydia, who is completely defenseless and totally, literally in the dark about everything she's just done. But yeah, this was a very short but entertaining matchup. Up next, a match that Michael Cole describes as a family tragedy, which is a very poor choice of words in hindsight, as Eddie Guerrero takes on his nephew, Chavo Guerrero. In the last several weeks, Eddie has lost both the US and the Tag Team Championships on SmackDown, and Chavo is just disgusted at Eddie's losing streak, him losing his mojo, his momentum, and all that stuff. They do briefly reconcile, but then in a rematch for the tag titles with the Bashams, Chavo takes the fall. After the match, Eddie gets the hell beaten out of him by the Bashams, and Chavo just sits outside and refuses to help. Then Chavo beats up Eddie himself and making Eddie bleed. Eventually, Chavo Classic gets involved, although he's not called Chavo Classic yet. He's just Chavo Guerrero Sr., Eddie's older brother, Chavo Jr.'s dad. Kurt Angle's been trying to help Eddie out and motivate him, but last week on SmackDown, Angle accidentally hit Eddie with the Angle Slam after being blinded. Maybe blindness was 2004's version of cucking in 2019. Good body language here in this matchup as they lock up and grapple early on, and good commentary by Cole as well, just telling the story of their relationship over the years. Cole tells an anecdote that as kids, Eddie was always being punished over something Chavo did, and Taz goes, "Who cares, Cole?" It's a pretty clean matchup except for a couple of points, because the whole story with Eddie is he's going through an internal struggle because he wants to beat up Chavo, but he also thinks he shouldn't because he's family. At one point, he actually thumbs Chavo in the eye, and he immediately regrets it. He wants to punch him, but he can't. They tumble out of the ring, the referee's distracted, and Chavo Classic drops Eddie on the steps. Chavo eventually goes to the 3 suplexes, but Eddie blocks him, hits off his own 3 amigos, the frog splash, and the win. I give it 2.5 stars out of 5. It is longer than the previous 2 matches, but not by much. Not as long as I think a match like this should go, and it's also, like I said, relatively clean for a match with this much animosity behind it. But the story they're telling as far as why Eddie's not getting too physical with Chavo, I think is well done. The in-ring action is solid. The storytelling of the commentary, it really brings the overall rating up. But the question is, where's the heat for a match like this? Well, I'll tell you, because after the bell rings, Eddie decks Chavo Sr., and as he goes to leave, he suddenly snaps. He takes Sr. to Dick Kick City, beats up Chavo Jr. some more, ties Sr. to the bottom rope by his tie, then beats the piss out of Chavo Jr., and the crowd has kind of died down after this. Like, he's showing Chavo Jr.'s face to Chavo Sr., like, "Look what you made me do!" And then he's bloody and everything. This is dark. This is something I completely forgot really happened. Something you certainly don't see in the Eddie tribute packages after his death. Like, look at him beating the piss out of his nephew and making him a bloody mess and everything. If this does not scream finality to their feud, I don't know what does. Because after a beating like that, you just know with the path Eddie's going to go on in the next couple of months, like, yeah, these two are not going to be facing off in the ring for a while at this point. Like, this feud is donezo. So it makes sense for the storyline. Again, it's good payback for Eddie here, but man, it's one of those things where it's like, wow, this is like dark even for Eddie at this point. He's a babyface now, but ooh, that's a little too far almost. Chris Benoit is being interviewed backstage about being number 1 in the Rumble match. Before he says much, though, Flair, Orton, and Batista of Evolution walk in, and they're draped in gold. Flair tells Benoit that as great as he is, he's always come in second place. Flair throws champagne into Josh's face, sprays it on himself, and gets it in his eyes as he tells Benoit again, second place, while he cannot open his eyes. It's a weird visual, and again, what's the deal with people going blind in 2004? Brock Lesnar defends the WWE Championship against Hardcore Holly. Kind of an odd pairing on paper, but makes a lot of sense if you look at their history. Back in September of 2002, these guys had a match on SmackDown. Lesnar broke Holly's neck with a botched powerbomb. They actually finished the match, which couldn't have been good for Holly's neck. But what's even worse, though, he actually wrestles for a couple more weeks after this before they realize, oh, he's got a broken neck and has to go off and take time for surgery. Holly comes back in late 2003 with a vengeance, constantly going after Lesnar, as we most recently saw in my Survivor Series 03 review, where Holly eliminated himself at the beginning of that Survivor Series match, beating up Lesnar before the match began. He has vowed to break Lesnar's neck for payback and win the title, and Lesnar's been running scared from Holly ever since. The match begins in a similar fashion to Survivor Series 03, a big fight on the outside after the pyro. Back in the ring, though, Lesnar's on the attack. He's got him in a very painful grapevine for a long time. Holly fights out of it, but then Lesnar suplexes him, gets him back into the hold, and the crowd is getting very restless. Holly does make a brief fiery comeback, hits the Alabama Slam for the exclamation point, and he's going for his big move. The move he's trying to get over is the one that will break Brock Lesnar's neck. The full Nelson, Jack. Yeah, really exciting stuff here. He gets Lesnar in the full Nelson. They actually fall out of the ring while he still has the hold applied. He goes back into the ring and goes for it again on the apron, but then he gets dropped. The F5, Lesnar wins and retains. I give it 1 star out of 5, because for a match with a natural built-in story like this, you would think the match would go a lot differently. I'm not saying Holly should have won, because he shouldn't have, But the way they structured this match in particular, I think, goes against everything that had happened in the build-up for this. I mean, the legitimate heat, the legitimate incident of Lesnar breaking Holly's neck. Holly comes back and he wants blood. He wants to break Lesnar's neck. And so why are we doing these, why are we doing rear naked chokes? Why are we doing these holds? I feel a match like this should have been all punches, all power moves. It should have been a violent fight. And we didn't really get that with this matchup here. Apparently the match was supposed to go 15 minutes long, but then at the last minute they cut it in half. So with entrances, only 8 minutes is what they were given for this championship match. And so that being said, with that little time, I think that's even more of an excuse to just go crazy and just try and be as violent and physical as you can. Not, grapevines and full Nelsons. That, to me, is not what you should have for a match with as good of a built-in story as this is. Again, not saying Holly should have won, but he should have gone down swinging a lot more. In your semi-main event, it's a last man standing match for the World Heavyweight Championship as Triple H defends against Shawn Michaels. But first, the past. Shawn and Triple H, of course, were the best of friends. They formed D-Generation X, but then Shawn got hurt. He dropped the ball, so to speak, and Triple H picked it up. But then Tripp says it was never a friendship. According to him, Shawn always saw him as an underling. Shawn came back into competition at SummerSlam 2002 and beat Triple H. They got beaten down after the bell. They fought again at Survivor Series 2002 in the Elimination Chamber match when Shawn won the world title. They fought again for the title at Armageddon the next month, and now we're here in a last man standing match. A lot of punches are traded to start things off. Triple H working Shawn's back, Michaels working Triple H's leg. The fight goes to the outside, and low-key, one of my favorite spots in this matchup here is a really subtle one. They fight on one announce table, and it's teased that Triple H is going to fall into the other one, but he doesn't, which gets boos from the crowd. Shawn does end up going through the table himself after going for a crossbody off the ropes to the outside. Shawn begins bleeding a lot, as he often does in situations like this. Shawn just keeps fighting back though and keeps getting up, much to Hunter's dismay. He grabs a chair, whomps him, but Shawn still gets up. The pedigree attempt is blocked, slingshot into the turnbuckle, and here's the part where Triple H bleeds. Big dink by Shawn Michaels with the steel chair, and both men are just now covered in blood. HBK with the elbow drop goes for sweet chin music, but Triple H hits the low blow instead. They keep on fighting. It keeps looking gross until H finally hits the pedigree on Shawn, but somehow, some way, Shawn gets up at the count of 9. Triple H walks up to him, and then Shawn finally hits sweet chin music because 1 second is all it takes, the build said. They both go down. They both fail to enter the 10 count. It's a draw, and fans react the way you might expect. I give the match 3 stars out of 5, and to me it's kind of a low rating for this matchup here. It's probably the most I can rate it, but it was good. I appreciated the physicality in the matchup here. The blood I thought was excessive at times, but I think it still added to the story and the animosity that these two have. It makes sense. It's justified. However, I don't think this match, I don't think it lives up to the stuff they had in their previous encounters at SummerSlam, at Survivor Series, at Armageddon. It doesn't live up to that. And then the bogus double countout finish is just no way to go for that matchup here. As much as I didn't like Triple H and this run he had on top, I would have appreciated a straight up victory for Triple H than this draw that we got. Even though it kind of protects Shawn a little bit, I think the fans would have forgiven it if he had lost straight up. I don't think it would have been a huge effort. And the real kicker is, the reason that these first matches in the show were so short, and the reason, Holly and Lesnar was so cut down, was because they wanted to add more time to the last man standing match, and for them to do all that, and for it to still end in a double count out, to me, that's a slap in the face. It's frustrating from a fan perspective. It has to be frustrating from a wrestler's perspective for having their time cut for that kind of finish. To me, that's the way I feel about it. So, good match, but a bad ending. It is now time for the Royal Rumble match. 15 men from Raw, 15 from SmackDown. The winner goes to the main event of WrestleMania 20. And I love this hype package. It's so funny because here, the first part of it, here are all these sound bites from all of the biggest names, the ones who are most likely to win. And here's everybody else in these silent pictures. And then the last third of the package explains the climb and the journey, like Chris Benoit and John Cena have gone through, fighting Paul Heyman, the GM, to get to where they are in the Rumble match. You also see Goldberg winning the number 30 spot, so it kind of wraps everything up in a bow here with the package. Before the match begins, though, Raw GM Eric Bischoff interrupts the introductions, sings the praises of Raw, which then brings out SmackDown GM Paul Heyman. Heyman says nothing, but he jumps Bischoff. Out comes Sheriff Steve Austin, who's back on television riding his ATV on Raw every week after being, quote, fired for good after Survivor Series last year. Well, nonetheless forever, I guess. Austin chastises them both. What you're doing is in violation of the law. He He hits Bischoff with a stunner, looks to have a beer with Heyman. They drink, then a stunner to Heyman. Some rare physicality by Paul Heyman here. Backstage, Terry interviews Goldberg, but before he can say anything though, Brock Lesnar walks in and talks a big game, saying, hey, last time you interrupted me in Survivor Series, Goldberg, you were champion, where's your belt now? Goldberg spooks Lesnar by making him think Hardcore Holly's behind him, then he calls him a coward. Where is this gonna lead, I wonder? Taz and Jim Ross are your new commentary team for the Rumble match, and we go back to this empty seat in the front row, which we've been going to all night, because the story is Sheriff Austin offered Mick Foley a chance to sit in the front row and watch the show. He's been spending the last few weeks getting embarrassed by Randy Orton and Evolution, so offers him a seat there, but he's not there. And so on commentary, Taz goes, hey JR, last week on Raw, you said that you'd call Mick Foley a coward if he didn't show up on the show tonight. So he basically cajoles JR into saying he's a coward, and JR is very sad about this. And then we go right into Taz's, keys to victory. First things first, JR, you gotta hide. At number 1, it's Chris Benoit. And at number 2, it's the Intercontinental Champion, Randy Orton. As the match begins, my first thought is, thank God they replaced the bloody, beer-soaked canvas, because after the last man standing match and the beer and everything spilling in the Austin Heyman Bischoff segment, I thought, oh my God, like, why have they not replaced the canvas yet? Turns out they did that during the Goldberg interview, so now it's all squeaky clean. I was really worried they're gonna have to wrestle on that disgusting, filthy canvas, but thank God they didn't. At number 3, it's Mark Henry with the rare blue and gold color scheme. Taz describes him as having a head like a farm animal. Number 4, it's Tajiri, who hits his handspring elbow onto Orton. Number 5, it's Bradshaw, and he's throwing clotheslines from hell all over the place. Benoit gets him in the crossface, Bradshaw powers out, but then Benoit eliminates Bradshaw, but don't worry, he'll be champion in a few months anyway. Scott Steiner. Number 9, Matt Morgan, and at number 10, the Hurricane, or as JR calls him, the Weather Alert. He tries to take on Matt Morgan, Hurricane that is, but Morgan's having none of it, and he hurls Hurricane out of the ring. At number 11, it's Booker T coming out to his track from WWE Originals, oh dear. Kane's got a huge run here, takes out everybody in the ring. At number 13, we hear the Undertaker gongs. We have not seen Taker since Survivor Series when Kane helped bury him alive. Benoit eliminates Rhino. Rikishi stink faces Matt Morgan, and Taz goes, welcome to Rikishi's ass, rookie. Number 15's Rene Dupree, who eliminates Matt Hardy. He does the French tickler dance. Orton eliminates Rikishi and Booker T in short order. Number 17 is Shelton Benjamin. Number 18 is Ernest the Cat Miller with his sidekick Lamont. Ernest and Lamont are a pair of dancing fools in the ring as Taz sings along to the theme song, which is gold. Benoit and Orton get back up. Benoit tries to throw Lamont out of the ring by his wig, but that does not quite work out. Orton takes out Miller, and JR goes, we're back to the wrestling portion of the Rumble. Number 19, Kurt Angle, and he's all business against Orton and Benoit. Angle has said that he dedicates this match to the troops, so he hopes to win this one here. At number 21, we hear Test's music play, but he does not appear. We cut to the backstage area. We see he's got laid out by somebody. Sheriff Austin checks on him and sees somebody off camera who apparently did it. Austin tells the silent mystery man that now he's number 21 and tells him to get out there, and it's Mick Foley. He's no coward, and the fight continues on the outside. At number 22, it's Christian. On the outside, Foley takes out Finlay with the steel steps, and Orton thwacks Foley in the face twice in a row with a steel chair. They fight their way back up the ramp, and Foley gets on Sacco when at number 23, it's Nunzio. He gets the mandible sock on his way down the ramp. Orton takes Foley to Dick Kick City and runs away. Foley then follows him to the back. The feud between these guys, though, does not end here. It does carry on to WrestleMania 20, the big 3-on-2 handicap match, Rock and Sock versus Evolution, which I have covered on this channel. And then the next month, they have their match, Randy Orton versus Cactus Jack at Backlash. Number 24 is The Big Show. Christian tries his best to take him on, but he fails. At number 25, it's the former undisputed champion, Chris Jericho. Number 26 is Charlie Haas. 28, John Cena, John Cena, John Cena, John Cena, John Cena. He finds Nunzio still hiding on the floor and brings him into the ring. Number 29 is Rob Van Dam. And at number 30, it's Goldberg the goalie. He's got a couple of badass spears in him, taking out Big Show and Billy Gunn. Brock Lesnar runs in and hits him with the F5. Kurt Angle eliminates Goldberg. And of course, that storyline is just continuing to percolate. It began at Survivor Series, carries on here at the Rumble, and that will lead to their match at WrestleMania 20, which is just, yeah. He eliminates Cena, who tears his MCL on the way out, a very ugly landing, but amazingly did not halt his time on the road all that much. Even back then, he was Super Cena. Show eliminates Rob Van Dam, and so your final four are Benoit, Angle, Jericho, and The Big Show. So kind of a little coincidence here. 3 of the final 4 guys were the 3 guys in the triple threat threat match at WrestleMania 2000. And then there's Big Show. Show chokeslams Jericho out of the ring. Kurt's got the ankle lock on Show, who manages to eventually flip Angle out of the ring by using himself as a lever on the top rope. One of the most agile things I've seen Big Show do. Down to Benoit and the Big Show. Benoit with a diving headbutt to Show, who's over the rope, so he falls back in. Show gets Benoit in a military press, but Benoit counters into a face lock. They go over the top rope, and then Benoit hits the slowest apron DDT in history and eliminates the Big Show to win. Benoit wins the whole enchilada at number 1. I give this one 5 stars out of 5. Now, a lot of people consider the 92 Rumble match to be the greatest of all time, and I'm inclined to agree with them, but if there's any Rumble match that comes close to that, I think it's this one, for a lot of the same reasons. The story of Benoit going from number 1 all the way to the end and going through all of the trials and tribulations. Also, did you notice the only people he eliminated were the big guys? Guys like Matt Morgan and Rhino and Bradshaw and the Big Show and Mark Henry. All these big dudes. What a really smart way to try and elevate Benoit and make people take him seriously. The fact he's taking all these bigger guys out of the ring. And also, even though the 92 Rumble match has some unbelievable star power, and I think it's two different eras, obviously, I would argue that the star power in this one is equally as strong because you got a lot of current and future Hall of Famers in that Rumble match as well. You've got the pure satisfaction of Benoit, the guy who a lot of fans have resonated with because he's one of those guys who was kind of held down in WCW and also similarly in WWE for a while until he finally gets his shot here. Such a massive catharsis, which would eventually be surpassed by him winning at WrestleMania 20. Just it's a great feeling. And also, there's even a comedy spot thrown in there as well. There's building the planting seeds for WrestleMania stuff. It's a really well done, well structured Rumble match. Also, the fact that it's 90-second intervals instead of 2 minutes makes the match just fly by a lot faster to me. And as he covered before, Benoit would then jump from SmackDown to Raw to challenge Triple H for the world title, which then set the precedent for the winner of the Rumble match to go after either world champion. And of course, Benoit would go on to win the championship at WrestleMania 20 in that triple threat match with Shawn Michaels and Triple H. But of course, as we all know, the sad reality is, it's hard to glorify this matchup here and Benoit's accomplishments and the storyline and his tale of redemption through WrestleMania 20 because of what happened in 2007, that murder-suicide. And so the company has done everything in their power to scrub this match from the records. They'll say that Benoit won the match, but in the most bland of terms, and you have to look to find it. When they're doing these annual, the highlights of each Rumble every year, 2004's highlight is the last man standing match. It was the year of the shitty double countout finish for that otherwise okay match. They'll say every year, throughout the history of the Rumble match, only 2 men have won the match at number 1. Shawn Michaels was one of them, and we're not going to tell you who the other one is. So they focus on the last man standing match instead. So yes, for obvious reasons, justifiably so, this is the forgotten Rumble match. It's a damn shame, but it is what it is. My final grade for the 2004 Royal Rumble is a B. I think that the Rumble match itself is so good, it really helps buoy the rest of the card, which at times is kind of disappointing, kind of underwhelming. Like I said, those really short match times for the undercard, I think hurts a lot of those matches in some ways. And again, when you consider that a lot of those matches were cut, or time from it was cut, to make room for the last man standing match, and to have that finish really adds insult to injury. That being said, even though it's been scrubbed from history and everything, the Rumble match itself is that good. I would say it's right up there with the 92 Rumble, if not a little bit better. My opinion, to me, it's kind of a coin flip. I'd probably have to say that 92 one is a little bit better, but 2004 is right up there, man. So I think nothing really truly terrible on this show, except maybe for, Lesnar and Holly, which is amplified by the fact that it is a championship match, and there is so much legitimate, great story behind it, and so kind of falls short there. But besides that, though, I think it was, a solid show, but those first matches, man, they are lightning fast. Well, I hope you enjoyed my look at the 2004 Rumble. If you want to play a role in determining which shows I look at, be they good, bad, or somewhere in between, go to patreon.com/wrestlingwithregret, become a $10 backer or above, and you'll have the chance to nominate classic shows for me to review. Next time, you know what? I just looked at the 2004 Rumble. I've already seen the end of that story arc with WrestleMania 20, so might as well bridge the gap. It's No Way Out 2004. I'm Brian Zane, and I'll see you next time.